Look, all right. The next topic I kind of wanted to talk about, if you have some time, you're not required to stay for this segment, but I thought you might have some a thought or two on the Clemson players in the NFL Combine. Do you have a minute to chat with me about that?
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to do that. I mean, I saw a stat on Twitter yesterday, talking about people that showed out in the Combine. We know Isiah Simmons did, right? Tanner Muse, I think, made himself some money. Kayvon Wallace had a great time. I mean, just an incredible display by the Tigers this past couple of days at the Combine. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Isiah Simmons, look, we all know what a freak athlete he is. We've seen him play at Clemson for several years, and I mean, we knew what he could do, but he's kind of one of those tweener guys who doesn't have necessarily a position, and I don't know where he's going to end up. In the NFL, I don't know whether he's going to play linebacker. I'm not sure if outside linebacker, possibly inside linebacker, safety. There's no telling where they may put this guy, but I can tell you this: you're crazy if you don't draft him for your defense. Like you said, he had a great combine. Look, his 40-yard dash was 4.39 seconds. I looked up, somebody tweeted out a table, a chart. I think it was Gil Brandt actually that tweeted out this chart that said, look, I like to have this chart handy when it comes to combine numbers and kind of what their targets are for each position. So Isiah Simmons runs a 40-yard dash in 4.39 seconds. The target is 4.7 seconds. So he absolutely shattered that time. His vertical was 39. The target was 36. He didn't do the bench press. I did that for all these players in the Clemson that Clemson had in the combine. I did their 40-yard dash time, I did their bench press, and I did their vertical. But he didn't do the bench press. But those are killer numbers. They have him shooting up the draft boards, I feel quite sure. I see him going anywhere from 3 to, I don't know, maybe 12, something like that. Do you have any thoughts on what position he might go or what team he might go to?
Well, I can tell you what team I hope he goes to. And, my Redskins, I'm a big Redskins fan, right? And we have the second pick in the draft. Everybody has been plugging in Chase Young at that position for the Redskins. I could do a whole segment on this. I know you don't want to hear that. But if the Redskins took Isiah Simmons at number 2, I would not be upset with that. I mean, you're talking about one of probably the top 10 combine performances ever by any player in the NFL Combine with the numbers that Isiah Simmons put up. I saw some stats the other day. He is about, I believe, 18 pounds heavier than Julio Jones, who is an incredible athlete, one of the best receivers in the NFL, right? Isiah Simmons is faster than Julio Jones and has a higher vertical than Julio Jones from combine numbers. Just think about that. I mean, it is inhuman what he's doing, and if he can get a great defensive coordinator, that's why I'm saying Redskins now at Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio is their defensive coordinator. They would love to have a piece to be able to plug in like Isiah Simmons. It wouldn't hurt me if he went number 2, but at this point, I think he's probably going top 5. He probably made himself $10 million plus with his performance at the Combine this week. Also, from everything you hear, Isiah Simmons is a great kid. He stayed out of trouble at Clemson. He did a fantastic job in the classroom. I mean, he's the kind of guy you want on your team for a lot of reasons other than just athletically.
Yeah, I'd agree with you 100%. Like you said, I know everybody's talking up Chase Young for that slot. And look, he's a deserved candidate for that job. He'd had a great season as well. But yeah, Isiah Simmons, I'm not a Redskins fan, but I mean, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan actually. So, but I wouldn't be sad for you, Mark. Just for you, I will hope Isiah Simmons goes to the Redskins so you're able to kind of cheer him on as Clemson Tiger.
Thank you.
Look, we're going to get into the safeties next. And like you said, these guys both had a good combine as well. Tanner Muse had a good combine. His 40-yard dash was 4.41 with a target of 4.6. So look, again, Clemson speed, okay? That's why Clemson's doing as well as they do. They have team speed. They have ACC speed, mind you. All right, look, so he shattered the 40 expectations. His bench press at, when they're talking about bench press, they're benching 225 and how many reps they do. The target is 18. He did 20. Vertical target is 36. He was a little short on that. He did 34 and a half. But that's still, with the speed aspect, teams love the 40-yard dash. People love the 40-yard dash. They're going to fall in love with that. And whether he finds a home at safety, whether he finds a home at linebacker, a lot of people want to talk about his stiff hips. He can't get turned around quite fast enough to be a safety. I think he's going to do well either way. I think he actually made some money with the draft. And Kayvon Wallace, same way. 40-yard dash was 4.53. Bench press, he did 18, and his vertical was 38. So he actually, I think, really surpassed expectations. Kayvon Wallace did. I don't think people were expecting some of what what he gave them. I think they're going to be two good guys. I think they're both going to get drafted. And do you have any thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, Tanner Muse to me is really interesting, right? He did struggle in coverage at times at Clemson, but he's such a great run stopper. He loves to hit. He's got so much energy, and then obviously that speed. He's the kind of guy in the NFL I think that you want to get on the field. The question is, where are you going to put him, right? And what position is he going to fill? Again, you'd like to think of the teams with the really strong defenses and creative defensive coordinators could find a spot for Tanner Muse where he could stick with an NFL team for a while. So I'm excited to see that. Listen, I'm a big fan of Kayvon Wallace. A little bit of the same with him, right? Are you potentially going to slide him over to a defensive back position? I think I could see him playing center or safety in the NFL as well, especially the way that a lot of these Clemson players have been performing, in the NFL that have been drafted high in previous years, right? I mean, Terrell went number 4 last year, and a lot of people gave the Raiders a lot of heat for that, and they ended up having a really good season. So I don't think you're going to see Muse or Wallace going off the board in round number 1 or maybe even in round number 2. Maybe Kayvon gets into round number 2. It'll be interesting on that. But I think both of those guys are going to get drafted someplace and have a chance to stick.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Look, we're going to go to our last defensive back, AJ Terrell. He had a good time as well. He did a 40-yard dash in 4.42 with a target of 4.55. His bench was 220. Bench in 225. He did 15 with a target of 15. His vertical was 34.5. Target of 36. So again, he was a little bit short on the vertical. But look, AJ Terrell has been a lockdown corner for a long time. People want to point out the LSU game where he seemingly got burnt several times. I got to tell you, it was worse than it was. I mean, it looked worse than it was. Let's put it that way. He was actually there on several of those plays. Joe Burrow was simply dropping dimes in these receivers' hands. I mean, it was just perfect placement. Terrell was there in position like he's been his entire career. I don't think he's going to have any trouble in the NFL. I think he's going to be a great corner to come out of Clemson. I think he's going to do some things in the league. What are your thoughts on AJ Terrell?
Yeah, well, Trayvon Mullen and A.J. Terrell, I feel like, are similar in stature, stats and ability, right? And he's done pretty well so far with the Raiders and became a starter 2/3 of the way through the season. I can see a similar trajectory for Terrell and what he can do. Yeah, I throw out that LSU game as well. I mean, kind of like no help over the top in that LSU game, right? I mean, you could only cover a certain amount of people on a certain amount of the field, and I'm right there with you. I've seen some of the pundits and the draft pundits kind of say, hey, Terrell didn't make a lot of mistakes against LSU. Like you said, it was more Burrow and the LSU receivers making big plays. I think he's going to be one of those type of defensive backs that you could see make it in the NFL in the next couple of years, being a reliable starter and maybe sticking around 6, 8, 10 years in the NFL. I think he's got a real good chance to do that. And just staggering combine numbers. As a Clemson fan, a little bit as I was watching all these numbers go up, I'm like, holy cow, man, we're losing a lot in the secondary coming back for this upcoming season. I know we've got a lot of talent out there and a lot of new faces and young faces. And, of course, I also trust Brent Venables to be able to work his magic like always. But really impressive how good that secondary was for the Tigers this past year, and wishing all the best to those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the last two guys we're going to get to is offensive lineman. It's a position I like to talk about. I think it's one of the most important positions on the field behind quarterback. We're going to talk John Simpson. We're going to talk Tremaine Ankrum. John Simpson had a good combine. His 40-yard dash was 5.24 with a target of 5.3. His bench was 34 reps, target of only 26. His vertical was 30. Target was 30. Tremaine Ankrum, he had a 40-yard dash of 5.21, same target, bench 26 reps with a target of 24. Offensive tackle is a little bit less than a guard, which is what John Simpson will project to. And the vertical was 24.5 with a target of 30. So Tremaine Ankrum was a little bit low on his vertical. So that was kind of a little bit rough there, but they both did good with their 40s. John Simpson, he shows you the strength. Okay, with the bench press, a target of 26, and he gets 34. We've always heard about how strong John Simpson is. I think John Simpson is going to be drafted. I'm guessing somewhere in the mid to late rounds, somewhere around there. Tremaine Ankrum, I'm not sure if he's going to get drafted or not. I think he might slide to the end of the draft and somebody might take a flyer on him there towards the end. What are your thoughts on John Simpson, Tremaine Ankrum? Will they get drafted?
Yeah, those are some good questions. Why are offensive linemen running 40-yard dashes and doing vertical leaps? I mean, is that really a big part of what they're expected to do? And I mean, I get you want everybody to do it, but When I see stuff like that, I just always feel like it's ridiculous. I feel like one of those linemen get hurt in the combine every year running that 40-yard dash. I mean, those guys aren't going to run 40 yards on a play more than, 5 times in an NFL season? Yeah, on both of these guys, again, it's really tough for me to get a feel on linemen, right? I mean, we had Mitch Hyatt coming out last year. I mean, at this point in the season, especially coming through the combine, there were people saying Mitch Hyatt might go as high as the second round of the NFL draft.
Right.
He went undrafted last year. And if you want to talk about one of the best linemen in Clemson in the last decade, Mitch Hyatt might be that lineman, or at least in the top 2 or 3. So when you see that a player like Hyatt, doesn't get drafted, it'll just be interesting to see. And I know there's some size differential, and I know some people said Hyatt's arms weren't long enough. And, there's all kinds of details and nuances to that offensive lineman position. You guys ought to have Eric McLean come back on and talk about some of that, because it's really fascinating on how decisions are made on how these linemen are drafted. And a lot of time it's not performance in college. It literally is the size of your arms and your wingspan and your footwork and things like that. So I would love to see both of these guys get drafted. If they don't, they'll absolutely get, invites, by the NFL teams to come to training camp and try and make a team. So these are the kind of players I feel like, whether they get drafted or don't get drafted, are going to have a chance to make teams, might land on practice squads, and kind of be able to scrap their way into a couple of years in the NFL if possible. So that's what I'm pulling for those guys.
Yeah, Mark, look, man, I cannot thank you enough for joining me tonight. Look, I knew you were to help us out with the Clemson softball. I was glad you were able to call the games. I'm able to listen to you call some more games in the future. And I love talking, Clemson players at NFL Combine. So I really appreciate you joining me tonight. Hey, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can keep up with you.
Yeah, so the Mark Childress show is normally on Wednesday nights from 7 to 9, but the next 2 weeks there's some conflicts with baseball and basketball, but that's a good place. Text me. Also, I'm scheduled to do the baseball game this Wednesday on The Roar and the Clemson Radio Network, doing play-by-play for that. And then the baseball game next Wednesday, I'm scheduled to do over on the ACC Network Extra side. So really excited to get into Doug Kingsmore Stadium a couple of times and be able to call some games for the Tigers.
Awesome. Mark, again, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. We'll hope to hear from you soon, brother.
Alan, I like to see your dedication, and ability to stay well, unlike Morgan, who couldn't make the show tonight. Is this the 4th or 5th time that Morgan's been sick this year? I'm having trouble keeping up, but I'm really proud of you for your dedication, man. And Morgan should be taking some notes on your healthy lifestyle, your workout schedule, things like that, all right? So just pass that on to Morgan.
That's right. We're working on it with him.